Hey everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports Podcast. I'm your host, SalvationsElite. Next to me, we got the lovely BashBO3 on Twitter, Sam, and online, as always, we got Rex, ShadyNero, in between us. If you are watching on YouTube, we appreciate all of you guys, and if you guys want to listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube, we're available on all those platforms, and we are excited to talk about some Call of Duty today. Boys, what's going on?
Josh, I am flowing like a river in an abandoned wilderness with the scent of a crisp air circulating through my nostrils.
Wow, this is happening. This is happening right now. Sam, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Doing real good.
Good.
Nice.
Doing good.
Nice. Yeah, so obviously today we are less than a week out from CDL London, the next event for the Call of Duty League. Obviously, pretty excited about that. I mean, this is the first, it started the new era really for the CoD League. It's the first new set of tournament style play for the CoD League, and it should be really exciting. So in this episode, we're talking about the AM scene from last week, which we didn't get a chance to talk about in our last podcast. And there's been some roster changes in the AM scene as well, and a lot of shifting overall with some rosters, and so we have a lot to talk about there. And then we're going to move in and transition into predictions and preview for the Call of Duty League in London. It should be pretty exciting, and I mean, we can hop right into it. So the AM scene last week in London, I guess we can talk about like the whole situation. We talked about the format of the pro situation last week. We didn't as much talk about the format for the AM scene last week. So upstairs in the armory, I'll just give you a little quick preview here. I'll give a quick summary real quick.
He was there.
I was there, yes. So upstairs in the armory, which was the venue, which is a really cool venue actually, is where the Lakers used to play when they were in Minnesota. The pro scene was awesome. We talked about that last week. The AMs were down the stairs in what circled around the internet in a parking garage, which
Blown out of proportion.
in first impressions, when you look at the picture, didn't look good. It was bad specs. It definitely was. But once being there, it was actually a pretty solid venue. I mean, the ceilings were low, and it was, in fact, a parking garage. But it really was more like a loading dock. It's an underground, it's like a basement level. And it does have an actual stairway entrance, like any normal lower level would to an arena up the stairs, whatever. So it felt pretty normal.
Well, they do concerts down there too.
Yeah. So it's not like it's some just horrible venue space. So overall, it wasn't that bad. So it didn't feel as bad as what people portrayed it as overall on Twitter. But at the same time, for the open bracket, it's better to have the setups in the past inside of a convention center were a better option. So there was a give and take there. I didn't necessarily love how that was set up, and there was no stream, which was really disappointing. I think all of us were talking about that. And so that was very disappointing. There was no amateur stream, and that was kind of a debate or a big issue on Championship Sunday, which we'll get into in a second. But, so the setup was a little iffy. I don't know, based off what you guys have heard about it or seen about it, what were your biggest thoughts or opinions when it came to the setup and how the league decided to run it?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I mean, my big thing, they could play down there as long as they're able to play without technical complications as much as you can. Whatever, that's fine. They're challengers. Take what you can get, and it's pretty good compared to what they were doing in the past. My big issue is just no streaming of it at all.
I know.
It begs the question why did we just have it? And why did you put out a bunch of prize pool money and do all this for it without? You didn't do anything to promote it or use it at all. You just had it there and you just used money for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it. It's how is this not streamed?
I don't get it because I know we touched on this earlier. Whatever episode it was, but streaming and the content needs to be there for the amateur scene, and having the first event open bracket 198 teams not have any streams was devastating. I do understand if this was a opening event, the first one, they didn't want to invest too much into it on the first one.
Maybe a little bit shorthanded.
Yeah, maybe a little shorthanded notice. They weren't quite ready. I understand it. But maybe the only optimism from here is just they learned what they needed to from formatting, and then now they can start to stream it from here on out. I don't know, but I was depressed. Again, these are the players that you are looking towards for next year, for starting spots next year, for if we ever expand, whatever. So
no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I was definitely disappointed. I mean, again, so like when it came to the championship or the grand finals, it was supposed to be played on the main stage all the way through. The problem is that they didn't allocate enough time to fit if there was a reset bracket.
Reset.
So if the losing bracket or the loser bracket team would win the first series, they had to move downstairs, and that's exactly what happened. And so they had to move from main stage back downstairs off stream. And what ended up happening was that Team Singularity actually ended up streaming the grand finals on their own YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So they apparently got approval from the CDL to put in their own streaming key into the podcasting computer to have it be streamed. So that was the only way to officially, quote unquote, watch the grand finals
of the whole
of
challenger.
the amateur tournament.
And
So
did they even tweet out, or like did the Call of Duty League
No.
even like talk about, oh, now it's going to be on the Singularity stream or anything?
No.
It was
No.
just
It's
like,
just not even there.
did they make money on, like, how many teams actually went to that and paid for team passes?
I'm 196.
196.
So I mean,
right.
yeah,
Oh, so they
it
made
funds
money.
most of it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of cash. It doesn't fund the whole thing, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of money in it, and it was really disappointing not to
Yeah.
see any type of personalities. Like there wasn't even like, you'd at least like to see what the MLG did in the past. Where sometimes they'd send like either like Jess or somebody as
Yeah.
like the reporter
Yeah.
to the open bracket to go
Yeah.
down there and
Oh.
talk about it.
Yeah,
But
was sick.
that didn't even happen this
No.
event, and so it was really disappointing to see. We were holding out hope that this would mean a new era for amateur Call of Duty,
Mhm.
but
Oh.
not off the rip. Not a good
No.
start off the rip. So
No.
the future of the COD scene right now the future of the AM scene right now is a little messy and kind of hard to understand. Basically, every homestand from here on out has either 32 or 64 teams,
Yeah.
unless they don't want to have that.
Yeah.
And so basically, certain teams are deciding whether or not they want to have a full open bracket with a bigger prize pool, and that's still being determined by a lot of teams and hasn't been announced yet about what teams are actually doing that. So as far as we know, it's basically just team to team's decision of whether that's going to happen. More than likely, I bet we get 3 to 5, but I mean, it's hard to say at this point what we're actually going to get. So
Do
hopefully,
you think they're going to stream the AM tournament in London? If
see, I don't know. I mean, with less teams,
it's less teams, so it's like, yeah.
You would
I know.
think so.
I mean, again, like in past tournaments, there was up to 6 streamable stations where like literally we would have, you'd have main, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and then 2 open bracket stations, 1 and 2, that were streamable. And they only had 1 streamable setup at this tournament.
Where's Guy Blaze? Where's Bryce Tacular? Like these guys could be streaming or
I know.
hosting these
The open bracket.
and these are known names in the COD community. So I don't know like where these guys are at. I don't know if it
Bro, I'll do it for free.
I know.
Hit me up, CDL.
I know,
Like, yo,
like-
I'll host the open bracket.
I don't understand
Like, dude.
when like you're trying to grow the scene. the connection between viewer at home and pro right now is the challengers. Like that is where you go to become a pro.
Yeah.
And right now no one really knows what's going on.
It's hard to understand if you're just getting into it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how difficult it must be for someone who
It's
is hopping into the
ridiculous.
scene
just hopping in.
this year.
Yeah.
They're like,
What's the
what?
challengers? Like what's going
So-
on?
Legitimately, this happened. This is a story from me being like reffing there. So I was sitting at my station. This was on Saturday morning or around noon maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up on like maybe like the top 32 or something like that. A kid comes up to me. His dad was like standing maybe like 10, 15 feet away for some reason. This kid is like, I don't know, 13 years old, 14 years old. And he comes up to me and he's like, hey, so, where are the controllers? Like, where are the controllers? And I'm like, what?
What?
Like, what? And he's like, I mean, like, can't we just like play? And I'm like, No. This is an open bracket $250,000 tournament.
This is not where
The
you
kid
play.
had no. I mean, you literally may not have.
You just no idea.
Him and his dad were there and did not pick up that this was important.
Tournament. Oh, jeez.
They were literally there in person and didn't realize that what was going on in front of them was important and mattered.
Which, like, imagine that happening like 3 years ago, where they were competing for $250,000 as a pro.
On the main stage.
That is wild to me. That someone, like, people don't really know what is happening. That event was being competed for money, like a lot of money.
I know.
That's insane.
Like, it's not posted anywhere. Like, the people at the event going downstairs, seeing 32 stations, hundreds and hundreds of PS4s, couldn't piece together that this was important. So that's definitely worrying, and I was just hoping that there would be like a upgrade or level up with quality and support for the AM scene, and I'm definitely a little hesitant on that right now.
Like, there isn't a dedicated team right now, and they need a dedicated team that is just for challengers,
for promoting challengers,
not as the backup for pros or the pro league scene. Like, we need a dedicated challengers team. I don't know how.
Would it kill them to have like an intern, like a challengers intern, who runs social media for like a challengers account?
There's so many people in this community that are dying.
Yo, Rex, hit up Activision.
Yeah, or like use the passion that the community has for the AM scene, and it blows my mind that they don't see the investment that should be made into it, because
somebody out there, hit up Activision, say, I'll work minimum wage and I'll run a social media account, make some content,
marketing,
and do whatever you need me to do for challengers.
Absolutely.
Because challengers need some support, and I feel like they might be open to it. I mean, Rex, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I feel like they're probably just going to be more focused on the Pro League right now, and because it's the first year, so they just don't care as much about challengers. And maybe it's in the plan to elevate challengers to a higher place later on.
I hope so.
That's kind of how I think they're approaching it. So, but I mean, I think it'd be super sick to have somebody could just visit there, even just to like interviews of games that happened, to just give us a brief overview during the stream more often about what's happening in the challengers bracket.
Like, even if they had like an updated bracket that like showed up on stream once in a while, like, here's your challengers update, and we're now in the round of 64, and some of the teams that are looking really good right now are Team War, Team Singularity, if those, just even that would be enough.
Or you just take note of the notable name teams,
I agree.
Parasite's team, Fellows team.
Yeah. The academy teams.
The academy teams, for sure. Like, you can even just hone in on how they did. I
totally agree.
Anything.
That's the type of stuff that I really, really hope they can figure out, because it just means a lot for these guys, and it means a lot to help create interest in the scene long term. Because if you're learning, I shouldn't have to figure out who Simp or Abezy is by them joining the starting lineup for United.
You already know who they are.
Want to see
the average person out there should be able to know who they are before they join a United squad. So or whoever it is, insert name here. But when it came to the play itself in Minnesota, I mean, the European teams, they showed up.
They did.
They showed up big time, and they made some statements. Team Singularity ended up coming from the losers bracket and taking home the championship. Even after a pretty tough schedule, because they actually played. I ref the semi, or I guess technically the losers bracket finals technically, on Saturday night, which the match ended near 2 a.m. 1:40 something in the morning probably.
That's crazy.
Because they had to do media before it, so they had to go take headshots and do some interviews and stuff before the match. And then so they probably didn't get back to the hotel till nearly 3 a.m. But then they had to wake up at 10 a.m. or so to get to the venue, or probably earlier, wake up at 9 a.m., get to the venue, get warmed up, and then play a match before noon, and then play in the grand final. So they got going, and they overcame that kind of the rough time schedule there, and ended up taking home the tournament, which was really surprising, I think, to a lot of people. They really weren't talked about much going into it because a lot of people thought, like, you know, losing Kleenex and how's that roster going to perform? But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, Singularity really showed up. They made a big statement on the big stage, quite literally, at least for one map before they moved. For one series, so they got moved out. Like, what are your thoughts about that? And, like, how are you seeing that playing out in the future? I think Singularity's looking pretty good.
Going into this first weekend, I knew a little about a little teams, right?
Right.
You know,
it was a learning experience.
It was a learning experience. So, I mean, that was insane to see the European, you know, guys show up because, you know, some people who think, like, you know, European and
some prejudices.
And
some prejudices.
Some prejudices where, you know, you can say that there is a lot easier competition over there, which allows certain top teams to get a lot of pro points pretty easily. I think this kind of proves, though, that they are still, you know,
the top end teams are legit.
Top end teams, yeah, right. They're
great.
Because then you have teams that just completely choked, right? You know, you got Parasite's team. For me, I thought for sure was getting top 3.
Rich and Lonely. They got sponsored by
Rich and Lonely.
Rich and Lonely, which they like announced that like during
yeah, literally.
Sure.
Probably just walked up and was like, guys, I'll sponsor you. You just wear this
Here's
stuff.
$100.
Here's $100.
Yeah.
Wear our merch.
Yeah, it's rough. No, I mean, I agree though. I mean, in my experience at least, the European teams, the top European teams are legitimately really good. The middling European teams, when you get past maybe like the top like 10 European teams, that's when you have some overrated seedings.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. The top teams are really good at Singularity, War, Train Hard. Like, those guys put up great performances and legitimately look like elite teams.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
Rex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you can't say Singularity's not an elite team. They won the whole thing.
Yeah.
They beat NA, they beat EU. And to be honest, I pretty much have no idea who these players are. Which I think is a good thing, because there's definitely talent out there that no one knows about. Like, who's heard of Bids, Detain, Insight, Emigrant Chain?
I mean,
like,
up until literally champs last year, no one had heard of any of them.
Yeah. Like, they're just nobody. Like, they're just nothing. No one would have seen anything like this happening. The fact that they won the whole thing, I feel like that should have gotten a lot of exposure. Like, these kids are good.
Yeah, which goes into, you know, back again, like why we need to have this streamed and talked about.
I know.
Even Team Singularity, who won, people still probably don't even know who's on that team. They're probably like, oh, Singularity won.
I know. And
right?
like, there's going to be roster changes at some point this year.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are going to end up on teams.
Absolutely. It's without a doubt.
Then literally, it's going to get no media because nobody's going to have any clue who these guys are going into it. So that's why I just think the media is so important, and I'm really, really hoping they can figure something out with that. But no, I mean, I agree. Like, when I watched Singularity, they looked like a legitimately really good team. Over and over and over. I repped them a few times, and they looked fantastic. Like,
they're probably better than a lot of pro teams.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. I mean, the low-end pro teams at this point, I mean, of course, it's hard to say who are the low-end pro teams right now, but
definitely could be some pro teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it. Of course, some American teams showed up as well. I mean, Hybrid Black, they were close. They were real close. And after the event, even though teams played well, there were some big roster changes that happened in the last week since the event. We saw a handful of teams make changes, and I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on some of the rosters?
I think Hybrid Black is like the biggest one. They got second place, and then they dropped somebody, and they picked up Pharaoh, which great pickup. But you also got second at this tournament. It's like, you guys did good, and you took Singularity. Like, you went, you know, you guys could have won the whole thing too.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's kind of a crazy move for me, and maybe that's what people talk about the AM scene. Like, they're just dropping in and out, wishy-washy. Hopefully they didn't shoot themselves in the foot by doing that.
Yeah.
Which that Pharaoh move then pretty much disintegrated Rich and Lonely.
Yeah. Cool.
It
Pharaoh's
caused
a
a
hard
big
carry.
chain.
Pharaoh's
It caused
really
a
good.
big chain reaction actually because they dropped Stamino, who then joined Beezy's team. But then that whole Rich and Lonely squad fell apart because Pharaoh left. Parasite
joined
Fallout.
Illusion?
Yeah, Parasite joined Illusion, which was a little bit Delo's team. So that was pretty interesting.
Not a terrible team, honestly.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think they played pretty well in the 1K on Saturday as well. So UYU actually walked away with the 1K with their roster of Pentagram, Emery's, Infamous, Rex, and Zyral. So
And
yeah,
they're not
that was
making any changes, are they?
No.
UIU Pentagram team.
Yeah.
Which I do have to say too, Spacely has to be the most patient man
Alive.
The amount of times that he has gotten gypped from a team.
Now there's no word on what he's going to be doing right now either.
I don't even know.
He's a free agent right now.
I'm assuming because like you got to think that the top 5 teams are like locked. They don't want to make any more
at this point.
At this point, they don't want to make any more changes right now.
It's basically a lot of pro points to work with.
So is he gonna wait until after London? Probably just to. I mean,
probably.
I don't know.
I mean, at this point, there's not. From what we've heard, there's not that many American teams going to London because it's going to be expensive. And a lot of these guys just don't have work, so they're willing to put up the $1,000 plane tickets probably to get over there. That's the biggest problem right now, I think, for them. I mean, yeah. At the same time, in other news, another team that we thought was going to do really well, Nagafin Exotic Fellow Royalty, they dropped Parzillion, which was pretty big news for, the name of Parzillion.
Yeah.
They dropped him and picked up Dav Patey, which relatively unknown to like most people. I feel like he's been flying under the radar these past few years, but played really well. He was on Swarley's team throughout this year so far on Aspire Esports. And so we'll see how that works out. I'll be honest, I've never really watched his game, so I don't have too much input when it comes to him specifically. Exotic Fellow Royalty, Nagafin, that squad definitely underperformed. And so it makes sense that they're trying to look to make a change. Parzillion's known as like a slow-paced AR generally, so we'll see how that fits. The new fit is. Maybe they wanted to get... Maybe it's a situation where they're trying to fit more into the 4 MP5 metas, and so maybe that might be a reaction to that meta.
Do you agree with the fast-paced roster changes in the AM scene? Because you almost wonder. I do understand you're in the AM scene. There's a huge pool of players. You're just trying to get the 5 best players. But is there an argument for team chemistry to stay together? Like maybe you do top 12 this event. It's seen as pretty bad.
Yeah.
But do you stick together and then possibly come together as a team? Or do you think it's just the best thing to do to keep changing those people one at a time? I mean
yeah. Rex, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, it's hard to say, and it's like you almost have to take it by like a case by case basis.
Yeah, I can see that.
I feel like a lot of times these teams do separate when it's like, but why? But it's also like we don't know what's happening inside of it, and
That's
so
the biggest
I feel like
thing.
there's a lot of over dramatic stuff that happens that like, okay, you guys should not split up because of this, but I'm sure there's other teams where it's like, yeah, you probably should. Like honestly, with the Fellows thing. And like them dropping Parzillion, I don't see that as like the worst move. Like I feel like they're not trying to be fast paced, but I also hold these players in higher regard, so maybe that's why I think that way.
For sure. No,
and too with the whole pro point thing too is you're probably trying to get the max pro points too.
We try to max out your seed and make sure you qualify.
Right.
Now with the top 32 and top 64 open bracket situations now, like you are looking forward. Looking forward to that, and the pro point definitely matters. So.
Because with the Parzillion move, Parzillion had 7K, and Dav PD has 11K. So like they could have just looked at numbers there, like listen,
and maybe it's securing funding.
Yeah,
that could be part of it as well.
So
like it's literally just unfortunate. We're picking up the pro points to secure
Yeah.
funding or make sure that we don't lose our funding for these tournaments. Those are definitely the inside moves that we don't know exactly what they're thinking there, and probably we'll never know what their inside thoughts are there. But when it comes to your question specifically, I think like duos and trios make a lot of sense. So, like if you have your duo or you have your trio, and then you're sifting out the other teammate or two.
Yeah, and you're just going through them.
You're trying to figure out who you fit with, who you don't, like playing with the pro points. So I think that makes the most sense because I think if you're staying as like a core of 3, you can usually keep your team organized and together, and then over time you find your
find those
fifth
2. Yeah,
as the year goes along.
Yeah, that makes sense definitely.
So I'm kind of on that side, but yeah, I mean, what teams are you maybe looking forward to seeing this week or next week, or what players are you most interested in seeing where they end up or how they perform, or what are your overall expectations and thoughts moving forward in the AM scene into London and into Atlanta?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Team War. There was a little bit of a controversy.
Oh yeah.
That happened, which I don't know if we're gonna talk about that later or not, but Team War was forced to forfeit the first map in the losers final.
Yes, which is basically the semifinal.
Semifinal, yeah. So
Vortex was crazy sick, and this was a really weird situation. So Vortex was crazy sick. Singularity said, we'll wait. I mean, maybe it'll only be like 10, 15 minutes, and he'll be hopefully rebounded, good to go, at least good enough to like at least play.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he ended up playing in map 2, so what happened is they had agreed to wait, but the CDL actually came in and said,
Sorry.
we've got to get going.
Yeah, that's the rules.
And they held them to the rules, which, as you know, that kind of wasn't a thing. It was definitely an iffy situation. And, like, it sucks really bad both ways. Like, if you're the CDL, you're trying to stay on schedule because you want that match to be on main stage, the championship match.
Which they were struggling with scheduling.
Which they already knew they were going to struggle with scheduling. And so, like, they were trying to hurry it up to maybe have a chance to do both matches on the main stage. So I get it. But they did forfeit Team War that map, and they ended up losing the series. So, not an ideal situation. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
They're probably salty about that, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Pretty salty about that. And not something you like to see.
Yeah, which I think would make you want to watch out for Team War now is, could they have, made a run for it if they had map 1, So I think they're definitely a team to watch in this next
And their player
one.
wasn't sick, too, so.
Yeah.
Right. That's
absolutely.
the thing.
Yeah, because I mean, how do you not look at the top 4 coming in, right? Singularity, both hybrid teams, and then Team War. But then also, I do think you're going to have to look at too, all the teams that we thought underperformed, right?
Yeah.
FaZe Academy, the old, which we can't say the old Rich and Lonely team.
FaZe Academy
doesn't even matter, right? Parasite's team, then of course Fellow's team, which might be more of just like, I want them to be good just because I like seeing them.
Pro players,
right? Yes.
I feel that.
But yeah, no, I mean, just being honest, I still don't really know a whole lot about any of these teams, really. It's just...
Outside the top, 15, 20?
Outside the top 15, yeah. So, really, it could be anyone, any time, but you definitely got to be looking out for those, the teams that played well this past week.
One thing that was interesting is in the 1K this weekend, Trainhard Esports actually took down War in the grand finals, which was surprising.
Yeah.
So, because Trainhard's roster right now is Nasty, Whalers, Sukri, Linny, and Keza. So they got some of those Europeans out there really frying. So we'll see how that plays out because that's pretty interesting. War's kind of been on a tear this past few months with pro points. That's why they've been killing it in the pro points category.
I want to see Hybrid Black play
with
Pharaoh now. Because I really want to know if that actually hurt them or helped them. Because Pharaoh, I think, I gotta keep saying, is one of, if not the best AM that wasn't picked up.
I mean, it's the most interesting roster move for sure because it can make a big impact.
Yeah, so if they win, I feel like they're gonna win pretty hard, and it's gonna be because of Pharaoh, or they're gonna end up not doing as well as they did before, and it's because they made that switch. So I'm really interested to see that. And then also, how can you not be interested in Parasite's team and then Fellow's team, just to see how they do?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Pharaoh, I mean, he's walking into a pretty high pressure situation. I mean, they finished second. And now you're walking in and you're like, well, we finished second without you, so we better be placing well now.
Yeah, they think he's really that good to replace somebody that they got second with.
Yeah.
And they might be right.
He's a champion. He was playing. He was obviously the best one on Rich and Lonely, so we'll see how that works out with team chemistry and all that.
That's definitely probably the one I'm most excited to see what happens, just because the upside's there, the winning nature of that team as well. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be talking more about this again. The more that we get acclimated with the AM scene and hopefully the more coverage we get on it and the more intel that we can get through the AM scene, we'll keep you guys updated when we're getting the information as well. So that moves us in to the feature section of today's show. And that's us talking about CDL London, the pro teams, and how this goes down in the first tournament of the COD season. Overall, what are your general expectations for the environment, the setup, the scheduling, the broadcast, the London atmosphere as a whole?
It's going to be so sick.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know what the crowd can do.
CDL London last year.
We already know. And I hope it's that same energy. I hope it's packed. I hope the chants are on point. I hope whoever London is playing against, it's just going to be insane. They're scared, you know what I'm saying? it just makes for a better atmosphere. It makes for a more memorable event. It makes for more growth. So
a London final would be so sick.
oh man, yeah,
I think it could happen.
Yeah, you need London to do well here.
Yes,
you need London to do well, because otherwise they're probably not going to cheer for anyone else.
Well, I mean, the fans, they got behind other teams last year.
They did.
So,
they did, yeah.
Rex, what do you got?
I have high hopes for this. I think I have this strange feeling that London knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're going to do this, I think, really well. And I think the fans are also going to show up and make it that much better. And I think the Royal Ravens are going to have a big fan base there. Because they also have, they have Skrapz, Wessons on their team, which is already people you want to cheer for. So, I feel like it's going to be crazy there.
Like, if
and
you
I
think
feel
about
like the
it,
hype could just drive London to winning.
Let's say you're from London. All of you EU fans out there, shout out. But if you're from the UK, and let's say you're like an OpTic fan or you're a Huntsman fan, I mean, either way, you're going to end up rooting for London in their matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to be hyped. Imagine if there was only one United States team and the rest of this league happened in London. We would be so hyped for the one American team. So
extremely.
I mean, I can only imagine what it'll be like for London now that they're united behind one name. So
and they're known to be a crazy crowd. So
yep, I'm really, really excited. You guys better show up and show out.
It's
exciting for sure.
And just touch too on format. I'm very curious to see how it's going to go with in between matches
scheduling
scheduling, but then also, aren't they bringing in musical artists too?
Oh yeah, ILLeY is going to be there.
So I'm curious to see if it's going to be that
energy. Let's see
if it does well or not.
Yeah, because then that
again, ILLeY's a bigger name than the Shredders.
Yeah. but just the whole music, the concert thing in general is like
that. That's my question: is do we keep trying this music thing out?
I think this is the last experiment. If this one doesn't work,
there's no way.
Unless you're getting like I said last week, a massive name.
Like Post Malone or something.
Yeah.
Right?
They need to fill a stadium when you have this massive name. It needs to be like COD Champs, huge 100% stadium.
Agree. Yeah. So I mean, my biggest issue it comes to scheduling, and I mean they were behind last week on five matches per day.
Well, who thought it was a good idea to allocate an hour 15? That's cutting it short on a
normal game. Yeah.
So I don't know if their schedule is out yet or not, but I sure hope it's an hour 30, hour 45 for each match.
Yeah. I mean
there's no way.
That's the problem. I don't understand why they don't just
here we go. Okay. So according to the
CoD League schedule,
the CoD League schedule is an hour
about
30
hour
this
and a half.
time, which is
a little better.
A little better. However, again, that's
pushing it.
Pushing
I really think everything should be an hour 40, and you're just allocating time because there's going to be problems in between matches and things that need to be fixed. Something's going to go long for some reason. There's going to be a restart. There's going to be something
Definitely.
You may as well just allocate the time, suck it up, and if you have a 10-minute dead period, just figure out a way to fill the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. That's my opinion. I get the accelerated schedule, want to stay ahead type thing, but at the same time,
it's
if you're wanting to be a pro American sport team, you're not starting tournaments early just because of a year ahead. They start when they're supposed to start. So that's my opinion. Is I'm hoping they can figure out a way to be an actual legitimate schedule for the first time in COD history, where if the Royal Ravens are supposed to play at 3:30, they actually start at 3:30. One day the COD gods will make it happen.
Maybe. Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, that's gonna be the most interesting thing for me because they're gonna have 7-8 matches a day, maybe even more than that. If I remember right. So there's gonna be a lot going down. I think first day there's
6. I think
6.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a pretty busy day for them. Hopefully it works out. I mean, for us Americans, it's starting pretty early in the morning, Central Time, 5 a.m. So shout out to you West Coast, 3 a.m. start time.
Woo.
Yeah.
Oh my word! But that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's my biggest worry going into it is just the straight up scheduling. But besides that, I'm really, really excited. Rex, where are you at? Do you have any worries moving into the event?
As long as there's not 15-minute breaks between each match, like these huge breaks,
Yeah,
I'll be
those are-
okay. I feel like that was a problem with Minnesota. Was like in between each series was just these massive
Yeah,
breaks.
usually you can. Usually about the fastest you can do is like 10 minutes because pros have to like edit their classes and get their things set up, and the stream has to update their stuff. So
Well-
I would be surprised if it's less than 10.
Yeah. What was
Usually
weird too was like I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but there was this weird like bouncing of it'd go to the desk and then go to the casters, but then it'd go back to the desk prior to the match.
Oh
like,
yeah.
There wasn't this like go to the desk, go to the casters, then we start.
Yeah,
They like
there was
kept
no flow.
passing it back and forth. It was like it just felt weird. Like the flow from the desk to the casters. It should be obviously like desk talks, go to the casters, we start.
Right.
It should not go back from the casters.
You know, like
at
in the
any point.
NFL, like you might have your studio cast,
Mhm.
then you send it to the field cast,
Mhm.
then the field cast will send it down to the on-field reporter for like a few minutes,
Mhm.
and then they send it back to the desk,
Yeah.
and then you're there till the game starts. You know.
Yeah. It just like it seems like they're struggling with finding themselves and like not trying to completely copy, the sports. I like wish they'd keep it with the way it's been, but
Imagine
I
if they had a perfect filler at any time, like an open bracket tournament going on.
you
Yeah.
never know.
That would be crazy.
That'd be the
You know,
most
like imagine
insane-
if you could just switch over in between every match to an open bracket game
and maybe
and
update.
cast it with a casted open bracket. That would be crazy. Could you imagine? But no,
You're
on the
asking
real
too
though,
much.
we're asking way too much. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to London, I mean, we can go through some of the predictions, I guess. We can just start off the rip. The first 4 matches slotted for the day are the Paris versus New York, the Dallas versus Seattle, Chicago versus LA Guerillas, London versus Toronto matchups. And those lead into the double elimination pool play brackets, which are so weird.
Mhm.
So weird. And then the top 4 teams that make it out of the pool plays, so 2 from Group A, 2 from Group B, go and play in a double or a single elimination final little bracket to end all, be all, be the champion. I mean, we definitely talked about this. I think we're all pretty excited for the new tournament format and the new look at things. And we can basically go through some of the predictions. So we're going to start with some of the smaller ones. The first thing is what team do you think is being the most slept on moving into this event? So, yeah, take it away. Rex?
I think this is gonna sound maybe a little weird, but I feel like people's expectations for Dallas are lower than what they should be.
It's kind of crazy.
It's
The-
weird.
So it's weird. I
tilted
don't
the
want to say it's a sleeper team because I'm like this.
complete
I still
other
think they could be a top team,
Yeah. No, I
but I feel like a lot of people are like they're not gonna do well.
I was gonna say it's weird to say it, but I think they are the most underrated coming in.
Which is so weird because
Which is
they were
weird to
number
say.
1 going into Minnesota to being like everyone's like they're not gonna do anything.
Absolutely.
Dang. I mean, that's tough.
It's
You,
weird.
you don't know because they really got rolled in Minnesota.
Yeah,
They did.
they did. I mean, they definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
Like they bombed what they were supposed to be. Like
It's just so it's such a hard argument because they had the 2 hardest teams to play, but then they didn't even
Yeah.
like
it
at
should
least
have been closer.
At least New York took a map off FaZe, while Dallas didn't even take a map off FaZe. So it's weird. Like I think they're gonna be just fine, especially because there's no way Shotzzy can do worse than he did 2
Yeah.
seasons ago. But again, we'll see what happens there. But
I mean, did you guys get a chance to look at the coaches poll that ESPN put out?
I think so.
Because they did agree with kind of our analysis. Well, especially
Was this the power rankings?
the power
Yes,
rankings
after-
that the coaches
yeah,
put out
yes.
after we did our podcast.
Yes.
They had
Oh.
Atlanta FaZe at number 1,
Mhm.
Chicago Huntsman at number 2. They had Empire at number 3,
Yeah.
which a lot of people dropped them 4th or 5th
Mhm.
after this event, but the coaches still have Dallas at 3. Rokkr at 4, Paris at 5, London at 6, Florida at 7, Guerillas at 8, Surge at 9, Subliners 10, OpTic 11, and Ultra 12.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the coaches do agree with us that Empire still deserved to be 3rd.
Mhm.
I know that wasn't the most popular of opinions coming off of last week, but I kind of agree with you that, like, according to public opinion, Dallas might be the most underrated
Yeah.
team, even though we didn't see literally 1 second of flash from them basically last week. Again, though, they were playing the 2 best teams by far, so
Yeah, it's either them or for me also Guerillas could also be underrated.
Yeah.
That is true. I know, the community is probably pretty
When it
split
comes to
here.
the
When it comes to the
forfeit,
forfeit,
Hardline.
they did win map 2, got taken away from them, but they also got smoked maps 3 and 4. So who knows what would have happened in map 5 if it would have happened that,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, they were either 1-1 or 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Depends who you ask. If you're
Depends who
asking
you
Aches,
ask.
they're definitely 2-0.
Definitely 2-0, right.
They did. I don't know if you guys saw that, but they named their documentary. Literally named it Hardline, like their summary of the event, their video summary, which is freaking hilarious.
At least they're
That's on the
owning it,
Guerillas
right?
YouTube.
Yeah, they're owning that. Yeah, Guerillas YouTube. This week, Chicago, they've been actually back to scrimming and streaming, which has been nice, which has really been nice to see. I saw a clip of Scump, saying, yo, these guys are God. They're playing New York, and Scump was like, yo, these dudes, literally a different
Show
team
up
online.
online.
Yo, they're literally a different team. These guys go online and they're gods. But maybe that just is their internet. Maybe it just shows that maybe they just kind of choked at Minnesota.
Maybe
They'll
it's a
come back.
confidence thing.
It's a confidence thing. Maybe they'll come back and they'll play well. But they were splitting maps pretty evenly with New York and Scrims. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, they're on opposite sides of the bracket, so they likely won't see each other unless they make it out, depending on how that all sifts itself out. But yeah, I don't know. New York's an interesting team for me, where I might have them as my most underrated team just because they slept so hard in Minnesota. But there's a world where New York comes out and they're back to their normal individual selves and they start frying again. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to not say New York. But they come to mind for sure when I think about it.
Yeah, the individual talent is there.
Definitely there.
It's there. They just need to come together and show up.
Yeah. Long term, again, I have full confidence in New York.
What if London never made it out of pool play or group play?
That'd be really, really sad.
That
That'd
would
be
be
really sad.
crazy.
'Cause, I mean, that would mean they'd lose to Toronto and then lose to either Paris or New York.
Yeah.
And it's like their homestand and they're out. That would be.
That's hard to
sad.
imagine. I mean,
There's
that would
no
be
way.
shocking.
I don't think it'll happen, but
Yeah.
There's no
that
way.
would be.
They are mad about that about the Paris game. There's no way they don't come out with just fire. I mean, I don't know. There's no way. But
Yeah.
so
The next category is the biggest bust. So Rex, take it away.
The biggest bust? What do you mean by that?
Oh no.
Like who's just gonna get destroyed?
You could say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, so the team that is most, maybe let's say overhyped.
Paris.
Paris.
Yeah, so
I mean
the listeners are
it's
so
really,
confused.
It's really hard for me to say. I want Paris to be good really bad, but they also just did well at Minnesota. And so it's still hard for me to give them that credit for some reason.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, it's just tough because it's when you're thinking about the team that's most overhyped. I don't know. I can see the Paris argument for sure. Because besides that, you look at all the teams here, and you're like, well, Seattle has no hype. I mean, Chicago has all the hype, but they feel like the real deal. London, kind of hyped, but they lost Paris, So it's
I was just gonna say, just from a fact of just who's gonna tank I just think Seattle is just gonna tank again. I don't have any.
I think they
confidence
will
in them.
too. That's why I said they're not overhyped.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe because even though
I guess
their
I thought
expectations are
everyone thought
low,
they were
if they go
just-
0-2, then
They're
just a
yeah.
bit massive bust.
Yeah, they're just gonna be.
I
giant
honestly
bust.
believe
Busting
Seattle
everywhere.
can make a comeback. I don't think it's going to happen this tournament, but I think Seattle can make a comeback.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I do 100% agree with the ability that Seattle has. It's just, man, they seem down in the dumps.
Yeah, they just don't seem like. It almost seems like they've just completely chalked up this year.
After 2 matches.
Which is unfortunate, I don't know. They just.
I really hope they come out and show up. I'm really actually pulling for
It'd be
them.
awesome, yeah. It'd be cool to see Damon, and it'd be cool to see, Apathy. These guys still have it,
They got a tough first round matchup here. I mean, they played Dallas first, and
If they
then
beat Dallas, though, it's like, where's Dallas?
yeah, that's
True.
true,
Yeah.
true. And those are discussions that we probably have to have like potential outcomes there. I mean, yeah, when it comes to Seattle, I'm just, like I said, I'm hoping they make it. They make at least an effort to look decent this time around because some of those maps, they look rough. I mean, of course, on paper it wasn't as bad as it looked last week, but I'm hoping they bounce back. So, okay, so we're getting close to like the MVP and the winners here. And our full-on bracket predictions, which we're going to have you guys vote on. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. So we're going to have a picture of all of our brackets that we're going to show here on Twitter, SalvationsElite. You can vote on them. So I'll put them up the day after the podcast comes out. You'll be able to vote on which bracket you believe is the most accurate. And next category is the most improved player from last event. Who do you think, which player is going to bounce back? The bounce back player of the week type category here. There's a lot of options with the teams that we got slated here in the week. So what are you guys thinking? Sam?
It's got to be Shotzzy. I just feel like he hit rock bottom. I mean, he hit the rockiest of bottoms. I don't know. For me, I saw him dominate in Halo, right? I know we've talked about this already. Halo and Call of Duty are two completely different games.
And we saw him dominate online.
I get it. I just think that he first ever Call of Duty LAN event. He placed the top two teams right now in pretty much everyone's power rankings.
Yeah.
Call it a choke, call it nervous, whatever it was. He did not play well. I think he's gonna, learn from his mistakes, put it into practice. I think he'll come out, and even if he's average, that is a huge improvement.
It's a huge improvement.
Sure.
He has like a 1 KD. It's a pretty big improvement.
It's a pretty big improvement.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
my vote would be Shotzzy.
Okay. Rex, what are you thinking?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like it has to be Shotzzy. If it's not Shotzzy...
Really? I don't think it has to be Shotzzy. I mean, we got a lot of options.
You don't think Shotzzy is going to be the one that's most improved?
I mean...
If you have Dallas
you've got
winning,
the whole Seattle roster.
Improved.
You've got the whole New York roster. You've got...
I mean, I'm about to say something about New York, too.
Okay, all right.
I think accuracy...
could
do a lot better.
He was right down there with Shotzzy.
I think he was lower than Shotzzy.
Yeah, yikes.
And
even Zero.
Actually's not like the best player to ever exist, but actually is not that bad.
Yeah.
So I hope accuracy can bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the New York roster makes a lot of sense for a bounce back here. They're playing Paris round 1. Then they got a winnable matchup in London, even though they got smacked by him last week.
I mean, they have the easier group.
I think.
Maybe.
My bet goes towards Temp to bounce back. I think he had a really bad event last week too, and I think on paper the bounce back against Paris and then to play a competitive series against London would make a lot of sense. And so, and then even if they lost London, they end up playing potentially Paris or Toronto again. So I think they have a good shot to bounce back. Temp. I like the pick, so I'm gonna go with Temp as the most improved player from last event. I could see an argument for like one of the Seattle guys. You're really looking at like Slack there or something. I don't know necessarily if I have the faith that like one of those guys will bounce back. Like
and the
Slack,
thing is,
Slack
like,
or Enable.
None of them really did atrocious.
I mean, Slack and Enable weren't good.
They weren't good.
They weren't good.
Like, they weren't the worst there, I don't think.
Right. I mean, definitely statistically, New York and Shotzzy and even ILLeY though. ILLeY didn't have a good event either.
Yeah.
So he could be a bounce back candidate as well if you think he could dominate this event.
Yeah.
He could.
Because he definitely could. But round 1 they got Seattle, and then if they win, they back the winner of Chicago LA Guerillas, which you'd expect Chicago. So that could be a pretty fun matchup right there in the first round. So let's talk our brackets and go through them a little bit here. And then we'll talk MVP of the tournament and winner of the tournament, because likely they'd be on the same team situation there.
Yes.
So let's start out with Group A here. We got the Dallas-Seattle and the Chicago-LA Guerillas matchup. Let's go through each prediction here for all of our events. I mean, I'm taking Dallas.
Yep.
I don't know about you guys.
Dallas for sure.
Dallas, Rex. Dallas as well.
Dallas. Seattle looks bad. Don't know if they're going to bounce back enough to beat Dallas.
But that is the interesting conversation there. If Dallas goes down to Seattle, I mean, where are you at with that Dallas roster at that point?
Where are they power ranked now?
Where are they power ranked now?
They got to be last. Seattle's already almost put at that last place point.
Of pressure on Dallas in that match. And if they were to lose that, then they go play LA Guerillas, and then you have to win that if you're Dallas. If you don't, you are in big time trouble.
You're literally the worst team in the league.
I mean, you're bottom 3 for sure.
Yep.
And we got Dallas there. That sends Seattle down to the losers bracket, so we'll remember that. Chicago versus LA Guerillas then. I mean, come on.
Chicago.
We're all going Chicago there, right?
Yeah, Chicago for sure.
Yeah, not too much discussion there.
Too
that
strong.
would be the upset of the week if LA Guerillas takes that one.
Yeah, well, it's
Which-
aches, but yeah.
Which means that we have a Dallas versus Chicago second round matchup.
Mhm.
That's a pretty interesting one. I mean, we saw what happened last week. We've already seen this. I'm taking Chicago.
Yep.
Where you guys at?
Chicago
Chicago?
for sure.
Chicago, baby.
Alrighty. That sends them out of group play because that means they won 2 matches. So that sends Dallas down to the losers bracket to play against the winner of Seattle versus LA Guerillas. So where are you guys at with that one? What are your thoughts with that matchup?
For me, again, like I said previously, right now I don't have any confidence in Seattle. And I actually was surprised by LA Guerillas. So I have LA Guerillas beating Seattle.
Seattle would be in full on like suicide watch.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be horrible.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as Sam. I thought LA Guerillas looked better than what I expected them to be, and Seattle looked really bad. I don't know if Seattle can bounce back. LA Guerillas, I think, has that grit to win it, to be honest.
Man, that would be devastating.
It'd be insane.
I'm going to take Seattle because I'm the eternal optimist that they can turn things around at least a little bit. Again, they didn't look, they looked bad, but like they weren't blown out, you know?
No, I agree.
No, it wasn't like a horrible situation. It was
But Guerillas
bad
got some
situation.
strength. Like, they didn't look like they were just getting destroyed by anybody.
Agreed.
That was my thing too. It's like I was just shocked. I was they look like a strong team. I mean, they got some slayers on their team. Aches.
Slayer.
Even with Aches on their team.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Imagine if Aches played better.
Yeah. No, that is the argument. If Aches can drop a 1, now suddenly you're like, they're dangerous.
Really good.
Yeah, so that is the argument for the LA Guerillas upside there. I'm going to take Seattle, which lines up for me, Dallas versus Seattle. For you guys, Dallas versus LA Guerillas. So this is where things are going to get a little choppy for you guys who are listening and not watching. So I might throw in the picture of the brackets here. Or something like that for the podcast watchers on YouTube. In my Dallas versus Seattle match, I'm going to take Dallas. I think the upside's there for them. I see a bounce back for them in the books, which means Chicago and Dallas come out of Group A for me.
Yep. Then for me, Dallas versus LA Guerillas, I have Dallas winning it. So
I got Dallas
versus
as
Chicago.
well.
Yep. So we all have Dallas versus
We got
Chicago.
to the same ending there.
Coming out.
Makes sense.
of the group play.
All right. So moving down to the next group, we got Paris and New York, and then London and Toronto. The matchups there. In that Paris New York matchup, there's a chance we disagree here off the rip. I'm gonna take New York in this first matchup. Actually, I feel like New York has something to prove. They're gonna come out hopefully shooting on all cylinders. So I'm gonna take New York in that first round there.
For me, I've got Paris. I think Paris is gonna come out hot just as they did in the opening weekend.
I'd be impressed. Be
Yeah.
impressed.
However, there's an asterisk because coming back around to this matchup, we'll see. But
Paris
winning first.
Little preview.
Paris is for sure winning first.
Okay, I see you. All right, Rex, what we got?
I see Paris winning as well. I think
Oh,
Paris. Wow. I don't think they've gotten an ego about winning at the tournament, or I guess their matches in Minnesota. I feel like they still have that determination to try and sustain, and I think they're on high edge about that, and they want to sustain it. So I think that's why Paris is going to pull it out, to be honest.
Interesting. Now we got the London versus Toronto matchup, which is interesting, I think, too. But, I mean, again, nobody's really expecting that much from Toronto at this point, so I think we're all going to go London here, right?
London,
sure.
home crowd.
Okay.
There's no way.
Too easy.
That would probably be the biggest surprise of the weekend.
That
With
would be
London at home,
if they
Toronto
lost that.
silence in the crowd. So,
Oh.
let's hope not, because I need this. I want this crowd hype for at least a little while.
Yeah, this needs to be an amazing event.
Yeah. So, all right, London. That means at least for me, I've got the Paris versus Toronto losers bracket matchup. And so that sets that up for you guys. You've got the opposite. You got New York down there. So, first of all, I've got New York versus London in the winners bracket side there. I'm taking London to just barely edge out New York there. I think the matchups make sense. The home crowd advantage is definitely a factor. I don't know how much necessarily it's going to be. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take London in that matchup. What do you guys got?
Yep. Then I've got London versus Paris, and then I think this has all of the recipe. London is angry. They want the revenge on Paris. They got the home crowd. London is taking it for sure. London moves on.
All right, Rex.
I'm same boat as Sam. I think London's going to take it. I think they're going to have that home team advantage.
I think
And
it'll
I
be a
think
theme.
London's also going to come back with that
Team for
fire.
our predictions. Cool. All right, so I got the Paris versus Toronto matchup then in the losers bracket. I got Paris moving on. Again, the roster looked good, man. I can't deny that. So I have to have him at least winning one match here. So unfortunately for Toronto, I have him going 0-2.
Yep. Then for me, I've got New York versus Toronto, and I've got New York taking this one. I don't see a way New York loses to Toronto. I think New York will come out stronger than they did, obviously, and Minnesota look better. So New York for me.
I also chose New York, but mine was not as an easy of decision to make.
Interesting. Wow.
I feel like Toronto, while I think we deem them as maybe one of the bad teams, I feel like they still could beat New York if New York hasn't figured their stuff out.
That is true. It does depend. If New York does not show up, then
We forgot to talk about Toronto's roster move. They're starting
medals,
roster,
right?
They're benching them.
Which made no sense.
Yes, which made no sense.
No sense.
And who are they putting in his place?
Vance.
Interesting.
I just don't understand. Medals was. I think he was the best one on that team.
Maybe there's a communication issue.
Yeah, that was really surprising. I mean, they showed up. They played okay. A lot of people had them going 0-2 last week. They went 1-1. So it's like
again, medals was showing up.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. But
so that was a little surprising for me.
Anyways,
that definitely. I don't think it matters enough for me to make any changes in my decisions, but that's where I'm at. So I've got now the New York versus Paris match in the semifinals there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have New York moving through and exiting out of the group from the losers bracket. This was tough for me. I mean, I like Paris as a team overall, really, and they play kind of like a little bit different type style of COD, which I really like. But I really do believe in New York's rebound for this tournament, and so I have New York going through.
Yeah, and then here's where my asterisk is, because Paris and New York are playing again for me. This time, New York was winning, and so I think New York will, by this time, figure it out. Some way,
beating
somehow.
A team twice is tough.
It's tough, right? So yeah, so I think New York will come out. They'll know what they're going to do, and so for me, New York will be moving on to the final.
It's tough, man. It's hard picking New York for me twice. I mean, it's definitely not easy.
Yeah.
Rex, what do you got?
I picked Paris. I still feel like Paris has.
You got the two European teams going through.
I do, actually, because there are going to be Paris fans there, I think.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Paris, they have that determination, and they don't have big heads about where they're at, and I feel like they could do something, whereas New York, they're still somewhat of a wild card for me, and their Minnesota performance was really bad.
Yeah.
So I just don't know where they are team chemistry-wise, I guess.
Right. No, I feel that. So for me, I've got Chicago, Dallas, London, and New York advancing to the single bracket elimination. How we assume this is going is the team that escapes out of Group A will, from the winners bracket, will play the team that escapes the losers bracket out of Group B, and then reverse for the winner of the B of Group B. So if that makes any sense, I hope it did.
Yep. So for me, I've got Chicago versus New York, which again is Group A winner versus Group B loser. Then my Group B winner, London, is facing off against my Group A loser, Dallas.
Yeah.
All right. So the four teams I had making it through that double elimination bracket were Chicago, Dallas, London, Paris.
Yes.
I have Chicago versus Paris, and then I have London versus Dallas.
Yep.
As the beginning of that single elimination tournament.
I got Chicago versus New York. I got Chicago going through, and then in the other matchup, I got London versus Dallas, and I've got London going through. So a little Chicago versus London grand final matchup for me there.
And I too have the exact same thing. I've got Chicago beating New York, and I got London beating Dallas.
Oh,
so
dang.
I so believe in the home crowd, and I so believe in London's ability. London looks strong. I understand the loss to Paris, but you can't count out Skrapz and Weskins are just phenomenal. I totally believe that they're gonna absorb the energy from the crowd and expel it into the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel it.
Yeah, okay, all right. I mean, we haven't even mentioned one player on Chicago throughout this whole podcast because we're all, I think that
Chicago just
confident
looks
in Chicago.
amazing. Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about them in a few minutes here based off how this looks like this might be going.
Yeah.
But Rex, who do you got heading to the grand finals?
So I have Chicago versus Paris. I have Chicago winning that one.
Okay.
For obvious reasons. And then London versus Dallas. I actually have Dallas winning it.
Wow, okay. What's your reasoning?
While London does have that home crowd hype, if Dallas makes it this far, I think that means Dallas is good again. So I believe Dallas can win
that. That's a good reasoning. Yeah, I mean, the X factor for London versus Dallas is that search and destroy. I mean, we've expected Dallas to have the edge in search and destroy, and they didn't look bad necessarily in their matches in search. I'm with you, though. That makes a lot of sense. I have London beating them, but that's a pretty good argument that if Dallas makes out, they're probably legitimate. But I'm going to stick with my London pick, I guess, for now, stick to my guns. But that's a pretty good reasoning.
Plus, Dallas has something to prove, too. If they make it that far, like,
they do.
Know,
True.
like
they do. But the X factor of that crowd, I just... maybe it's because I'm picking with the hype here. Because imagine a Huntsman versus London final. That hype would be real overall. But that's what I got. Huntsman versus Royal Ravens. Grand final in London. The Chicago roster is just hard to bet. How do I bet against this roster? It feels like unbreakable. Them and FaZe feel unbreakable right now. With FaZe not in this tournament, how do I pick against Chicago? They're so balanced. When you have Gunless playing the OBJ, how he's been playing it so far.
It's crazy to see.
And they're so good in the rotations. Their hard points feel incredible. The only way they get beat is against a good search and destroy team. And so in an event where Dallas is back on track, that's where I'd be a little worried because that upside is there for Dallas, especially in search and destroy. But when you're playing against London, a team that I don't have that much faith in search and destroy either, I'm going to take the X factor with the Chicago respawn overall. That's why I'm going Chicago. I mean, you're in the same debate here, Sam. You got Chicago and London. Yeah. Where are you at with it as well?
Yeah, I pretty much share your same sentiments here. Chicago looked so good in Minnesota. FaZe obviously looked even more dominant, but FaZe is not here.
Yeah.
How do you not pick Chicago? They look so good. It seems like they're all that team is getting along well. You see arguments, but you do see them come back together.
Based off what I've seen from like Envoy, like I love how Envoy goes at Gunless, and then they figure things out, and then it's just good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their communication is really cool. Again, we don't see inside a lot of other teams, so it's hard because they just don't stream.
Yeah.
And so whenever someone's streaming, I'm like, ooh, someone's streaming. Wow, this is crazy. And so I hop in. But
and then also
I do love that chemistry.
I also think too is you're seeing Scump where he's happy. A happy Scump is a good Scump. Like I think what we saw the past 2 years was Scump wasn't very happy with his situation. You know, whatever.
Scump.
A sad
Scump.
But yeah,
you know what rhymes with sad? Bad. Bad true.
Yeah, no, this
is the type of analysis that you get on the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast. This is some good analysis.
I'm placed my bets on T2P. Chicago is winning it all.
All right.
And then I
have Chicago Dallas, man.
I have Chicago Dallas. I have Chicago still winning.
Oh wow, we got a clean sweep.
Yeah, just because Dallas, if once we get there, I think they're that good, but I don't think they're going to be so good that they're going to beat the Huntsmen.
That's the argument for you there. It's like, okay, well, if Dallas is back, are they back, and they're actually going to beat Chicago there? I mean, the X factor for Search and Destroy, I feel like if Dallas, in your argument, is back, that Search and Destroy could be the X factor in the Chicago matchup. Obviously, domination to force a Game 5, you got to win it. And so that's a tough argument for me when it comes to Dallas versus Chicago. But, okay, we all have Chicago winning. What's the world where they don't win? Where would you see them? What's the argument against Chicago winning? Because we need to have some sort of devil's advocate here since we have nobody else to play that for us, so we need to make it ourselves. What's the argument against Chicago here? Is it that first round matchup against Dallas? Is that where the trip up could happen? Or what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, if they are not a strong S&D team, which we know they aren't very strong in. They've only practiced with Old Men of OpTic was their only.
And
S&D
apparently
practice.
they said they've had like 5 scrims in total.
Yeah.
And then Old Men of OpTic is formal and Scump's practice research.
So if you know they beat LA Guerillas, Dallas beat Seattle, Chicago Dallas. If they lose a respawn, they're in trouble because they're probably not winning both S&Ds.
Yeah, that's the argument, right?
Mm-hmm. So
if Dallas is back, right?
Yeah, if Dallas is back, however they can still obviously come through losers. And
That's
come
the thing.
back.
They could still be there anyway.
So yeah, they could still be there. So like that would be the trip up, but then with a.
It's hard not to imagine Chicago in the at least in the grand finals. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard not to imagine them in the grand finals. I mean, when you look at that roster, it's like it's
so
hard to even pinpoint who the worst player is on that roster because they're all just good.
Mm-hmm. Plus, they're all just playing different roles too, so
and they play the roles effectively. Yeah. So like, I don't know, Rex, where are you at? Like, if Chicago trips up, where
does it happen?
Yeah.
I honestly could see like LA Guerillas pulling out something, to be honest.
Just something crazy?
Yeah, if LA Guerillas at least makes them struggle or even could beat them,
yeah,
I feel like that's a downhill. Like if Chicago loses, I feel like it's a downhill slope.
I mean, it's kind of how the roster's built when you got Scump, Gunless, and Envoy, and they all have opinions, and they start talking, and then just things are off for the rest of the tournament. That could be the argument. If something weird happens, Guerillas gets a few rounds and search off of them, takes them, and then something weird happens in Dom.
Yeah.
Or map 4 hardpoint.
I mean, I could also see Envoy or Scump not showing up how you'd expect them to.
Okay. And then just something goes wrong in that sense, and that's where
that's how they lose their maps almost, is because those 2 people costed somehow.
It's hard to justify that argument in any way. Like that's why we all have
really.
I'm
just I don't really believe that's what's gonna happen. But
yeah, we're nitpicking for sure. So that's what we got, guys. I mean, for all of you out there, we're gonna post these pictures, and you guys can vote on who you guys got, who you guys agree with the most. I mean, we all came down to pretty similar outcomes, but the path to get there was different. So you guys will be able to vote on what you guys think is going to go down there. And yeah, we'll love to see what you guys have to say. So drop all of your comments down below if you guys are watching on YouTube. Drop a rating and a review if you guys are on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars, of course. I mean, if you guys aren't rating 5 stars, what are you guys doing?
What are you doing?
Don't rate it. Just don't do it. But we really do appreciate you guys' support. We can't do this podcast without you. And audio quality, by the way, I'm working on. If you guys are here, you guys really don't care at this point about what the audio quality is. But I'm working to make the audio quality better and improve it every time we do this. So hopefully next podcast will be even better than it is this time. So as always, guys, I'm your boy, SalvationsElite. To my right is SamBash_BO3 on Twitter. And as always, in between us is Rex, ShadyNero, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.